Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
This episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are covering all early news of the NFL free agency period. We just wrapped up, actually, the legal tampering period, so the first 3 days of free agency. So we will talk about all the trades, cuts, other news, signings. We won't bother you with all the money details. We'll just tell you what team has this player now, basically, kind of thing. So, Jeff, why don't we break down the flurry of moves that happened right before the tampering period opened up?
Yeah, so these weren't official until today when the league New Year started. So happy New Year to everyone out there. I want to first state that because this is the league New Year. But first, the Seahawks made two massive trades before the legal tampering period ended. And the Seahawks traded quarterback Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders for a third-round pick. And the Seahawks traded wide receiver DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a second-round pick. But they also gave him a 4-year big money extension, about $30 million per year. Alex, what do you feel about the Seahawks right now, and are they in a good shape going forward?
It's tough to feel like they improved 100% considering they traded one of their better wide receivers in Metcalf and they traded away their starting quarterback, Geno Smith. However, they did make a signing we'll talk about later that may have offset that a little bit. But I think from what we heard, Geno wanted more money. They couldn't come to an agreement, and Geno asked to be traded. And Geno was traded to the Raiders, which I think are it's a reasonable spot for him to land with Pete Carroll there. I assume that they're going to improve wide receiver there as well. I think it'll be fine for him. Seahawks moved on in a different direction at quarterback, and I also expect the Seahawks to draft a wide receiver at this point because it can't just be JSN and Jake Bobo or whatever. So, well, we'll see, but this may work out for Seattle.
Absolutely, and we'll get to the wide receiver that the Seahawks signed today to
Quarterback?
the wide receiver that the Seahawks signed to replace DK Metcalf.
Yes.
But this is after they cut Lockett last week, so it looks like they're moving out the old guard and getting ready for the new guard. And this unquestioned, and I have stated this offline, unquestioned makes JSN the wide receiver one for the team, and I think the team was ready for that to happen. So really cool franchise-altering trades here. So we'll see if it works, but they have a clear direction that they're moving. And speaking of a clear direction, the Eagles decided that they were out of the Kenny Pickett market as far as their backup quarterback goes. So they traded backup quarterback Kenny Pickett to the Cleveland Browns for a 5th-round pick and quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So first, because we both don't think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to be an NFL quarterback, but his skill set fits more of what Jalen Hurts is. So that's an interesting move for the Eagles. It seems like they're trying to solidify their game plan and their skill set going forward. Kenny Pickett goes into a hodgepodge of quarterbacks in Cleveland when they're trying to figure out if Deshaun Watson will start the year or if he'll be injured to start the year after back-to-back Achilles tears on the same leg. Any fantasy or any NFL relevance to this trade for you, Alex?
I thought the transition you were going to use was franchise-changing transition, but no. I think this is Kenny Pickett's probably last chance to earn a starting job, even temporarily. It's not a terrible move for Cleveland to kind of hedge their bets depending on how the draft board goes. They might take a quarterback early. They might wait for the middle rounds. They might not take anybody at all. I don't know. But it's at least they have a relatively young quarterback who has a chance to be okay. I don't think that they're going to start Deshaun Watson at all going forward from this point. Then I expect them to cut him next offseason.
They just kicked his can further down, though, with his restructure, so it does not seem like that's a possibility right now, but
We'll see.
they just restructured.
I can't imagine keeping him until the conclusion. That doesn't make any sense, but we'll see. There's
We
always the
will
chance
see.
he does something else dumb that can give them a reason to waive him.
Absolutely. The next item that we have is not really newsworthy, but it's something that we need to put on everyone's radar to monitor, and it's newsworthy as in notating the event happened. But the Chiefs wide receiver Xavier Worthy arrested for assault, but suspension is not likely as charges were not filed. So it seems like the account provided to the police afterwards did not match what the accuser had said prior. So the police decided not to file any charges. So we'll see what that means. And yeah, so Alex, is this affecting your opinion of Xavier Worthy going into 2025?
Well, as you're talking about, I just got a news alert for him saying that his former fiance has been granted a temporary protective order after the assault arrest. So I don't know what the truth is. This is a he said, she said kind of situation, and we'll play it out. I don't expect any suspension this year. He showed promise at the end of last year. He's a very fast receiver. They spent a first round pick on him. I don't expect this to change his redraft value. Maybe threatens his dynasty value a little bit, but right now, as it stands, I don't expect anything. We'll see if more comes out of this later.
Absolutely, but we can move on to the cuts. And the first ones, you're not going to find them to be too big, but the Jaguars did cut wide receiver Josh Reynolds and Devin Duvernay. The bigger name there is Josh Reynolds. He's always performed when he is paired up with Jared Goff, which made me surprised that he walked away from Jared Goff last season. But maybe the Lions walked away from him and he didn't have the option to go back. But he's always been old reliable for Jared Goff. So it's a name to keep on the radar because, as we know, Jamison Williams makes some boneheaded plays, and they do need some receiver depth because I believe Tim Patrick might be a free agent on that team as well. So they definitely need some depth. And we'll get to another wide receiver in a few minutes that could potentially re-team up with Jared Goff in Detroit. But Alex, first, the running backs. Chargers cut running back Gus Edwards, and Panthers cut running back Miles Sanders. Any fantasy relevance to the four players that I went through right now, or what are your thoughts there?
One that has potential relevance to me is maybe Gus Edwards. I think Miles Sanders is probably done at this stage in his career, which is crazy how fast he burned out, going from like a must start and high draft pick and redrafts to becoming irrelevant entirely in such a short time. Reynolds and Duvernay they've always been like deep bench players that potentially could at some point show up, but never really did. So I expect nothing but for them to be depth pieces going forward.
Yeah, and Sanders will be 28 in May this year. So we know that's the running back cliff. So I think that it's safe to say that we're really close to the end of hearing of Miles Sanders. But Alex, we have to get into the big piece of news. We knew it was coming down. It finally did come down today. The Rams have cut their superstar wide receiver, Cooper. Really sad to see this end. He was great for them for years. And now they're giving him the opportunity to go find another team and finish up his playing career elsewhere. Alex, what are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp and what are some spots that you could see him go to?
I still think he's got something left in the tank. I don't like the usage that the Rams did with him last year. I feel like he was underutilized after that first week where he had, I want to say, like 20 catches the first week, but I expected more out of him. I think that his next team will use him more. I don't know if that's going to be the Cowboys to reunite with his wide receiver coach from college. Don't know if it's Jared Goff in Detroit. Um, I don't know if he's going to stay in LA for the Chargers. I don't know if he'll want to go to the Texans to reunite with his offensive coordinator, offensive coach, who became the Texans offensive coordinator. Don't know if he'll want to go to Jacksonville with the GM there from the Rams. So, I mean, there are a number of spots. Seattle's looking for a wide receiver. Packers are looking for a wide receiver. Chiefs could bring in a wide receiver. I mean, there are a number of teams that could be interested.
Absolutely. As I had mentioned with Josh Reynolds, he could re-team up with Jared Goff. I mean, that's a place that I really wouldn't mind seeing him. I wouldn't mind seeing him with the Chargers, but we'll get to what the Chargers did a little bit later. And man, he could go to Buffalo. Buffalo would be a great spot for him. Buffalo needs that experienced wide receiver that's a great team guy, or at least projected to be a great team guy. But we will see. All right, Alex, let's quickly go through some re-signings, and we'll talk about the major ones. But the Rams re-signed quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo to a one-year deal to be their backup quarterback. The Bills extend Josh Allen to a 6-year deal worth up to $330 million. This is the only one that I'll mention the money on. About $55 million a year, which makes him not the top quarterback paid, even though he is the top quarterback right now in the NFL. They basically ripped up his old deal with 4 years left on it, and this is just to ensure that he has guaranteed money going forward. So I think he was running out of guaranteed money, and they just ripped it up and started over. The Commanders re-signed quarterback Marcus Mariota to be their backup to Jaden Daniels, which I think was a smart move. I think Marcus Mariota played good down the stretch when needed. Commanders re-signed third-string running back Jeremy McNichols to a one-year deal, which he's proved pivotal, especially when Eckler was out and Robinson seemed to be faltering down the stretch a little bit. But here we have a couple big moves, and the Vikings re-signed running back Aaron Jones to a 2-year deal. I think it was $20 million, so 10 per season. Alex, do you believe that he is a top 20 running back going into 2025?
On that Vikings offense, yes.
Yeah, I can definitely see it. I have him roughly around 26 right now, so we'll see. The quarterback play is obviously the question mark on that team right now, because they seem to be a team poised to turn the ball over to their rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. And then, are you surprised that the Buccaneers were able to re-sign wide receiver Chris Godwin to a 3-year deal?
Well, I'm surprised when I learned that the Patriots are offering him $20 million more over the contract that whatever contract they offered him. So that's kind of surprising, but it's good to know that a player values staying with the team he was at, a team that's more competitive right now, over just getting the biggest contract number he could get.
Yeah, I think he realizes that he could be miserable going to a place like New England, especially if they don't have it all figured out with Drake May. There's a bunch of unknowns, and they say the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, and he stayed with the devil he knows, and which ensures that he ends his career on a happy note, I guess is the best way to put it, like where he's happy and most content and wanted. So I think that really hurts Jalen McMillan, but that's okay. That's okay. We're not here to make friends. We're here to make money, as Chris Godwin would say. So he's making him move back to the third receiver spot going into the year. But they could have a pretty deadly top 3 receiver set. Plus, they have running backs.
Yep. They've got 3 good running backs. They've got 3 good wide receivers. Wouldn't be surprised if they have 3 good tight ends coming up soon too.
Yeah, I think the Buccaneers could have made the Super Bowl if Godwin didn't get hurt. Like I think that team was that tiled in and that locked. So pretty crazy after Tom Brady. And they went to Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield has been very, very impressive. So I expect that to continue. Chiefs re-sign wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown to a 1-year deal. And I think, Alex, you and I have been talking about this a lot. Basically, when he went down with the injury, I felt like he would feel like he owes the Chiefs one. So this made a lot of sense just from that standpoint. And I think he'll be a great third receiver and a guy that could run opposite Xavier Worthy. And he could be a great fill-in for Rashee Rice, who I do anticipate to be suspended for the first 4 games of the year, which ironically helps Rashee Rice recover from his ACL tear. So you want to talk about good luck for the Chiefs. That's your good luck right there, is like he's going to get suspended, but he needs that extra time to heal from his ACL. So want to talk about like good timing of a suspension. That's the good timing. All right.
Yeah,
So
they just have to declare that he's healthy, so then
yeah,
the suspension can start. But
they will.
I think Hollywood Brown just makes so much sense for them, considering they're gonna be Hopkins moved on, Rice is gonna be suspended. We almost had to worry about Worthy being out, but that looks like that's either a nothing story or a next year story. So
Yeah, as of right now, unless he's arrested, I don't expect there to to be much. But as you said, there might be a protective order that we gotta keep an eye out for. Could have been much worse than it was, because it sounded when it first came out like I was jumping off that Worthy train very quickly. All done. But speaking of not all done, the Giants cannot quit Darius Slayton. They re-signed him to a 3-year deal. He's probably their number 2 or number 3 receiver last year. I expect him to be the number 3 this year behind Wandale and Neighbors. And he's solid. He's like old reliable. Can't get rid of that old beater car out of the garage because had so many good memories with it, and it gets me from point A to point B, and that feels like Darius Slayton at times.
I hate
Anything on
this
that
deal.
one, because that was a 3-year.
It's 2 years guaranteed.
Yep, that's crazy, because a lot of these are 1-year deals that we're talking about. So
That was such a bad signing because I think they were competing with themselves. I don't think anybody else would have given Slayton that kind of money. I don't see him as a top 2 wide receiver on any team other than the Giants.
I
So
agree.
it's just bad business. That GM needs. I'm sorry, I know you like Dable, but Dable and the GM Shane need to go. They suck.
Completely agree. The GM's the person signing the players, though, so let's not throw Dable in there. I mean, you almost got the Dable look going with the beard and the headset too. Like you give off Dable vibes.
Yeah, I don't know if you can even give him credit for developing Josh Allen anymore because Josh Allen might have developed himself despite Dable. I haven't seen Dable develop anybody.
Right.
So
Joe Brady, not Joe Brady. Who is the Bills coordinator before now? Was it Joe Brady?
before
Before
Joe
Joe Brady,
Brady, it
yeah.
was Dorsey.
Yeah, Dorsey kind of let the everything hit the fan and kind of made Dable look like $1 million after.
Yeah.
But to your point, we don't know how much he developed it or how much structure that Brady and Dable had on Josh Allen, who just got his new deal, as we mentioned. But former Buffalo Bill Zay Jones re-signed with the Cardinals last year. He started the year suspended. He was supposed to be the 3rd or 4th receiver on the team. The team also brought back Greg Dortch with a restricted free agent tender. So it seems like he'll be the number 4 receiver behind Dortch and behind Wilson and behind Marvin Harrison Jr. But also you have to take into account with the Cardinals, you have to take into account Trey McBride as well, because he's kind of like the number 1, de facto number 1 wide receiver on that team, even as a tight end. Now, one of your favorites here, the Chargers re-signed Jalen Reagor to a 1-year deal. Go ahead, Alex. Let us know what you think of Jalen Reagor. Epic.
The receiver infamous for being taken in front of Justin Jefferson. Yes, that guy. And who's done
Absolutely.
nothing and just continues to get contracts even though he's not good at all. Okay.
Absolutely. And we just had some breaking news happen on the pod here for re signing. Adam Thielen finalized a revised contract with the Panthers to return for his 12th NFL season. He's been invaluable for Bryce Young's development so far. So I think that was a big piece to keep around for one more year for Bryce Young. And he's got 8,000 yards and 64 touchdowns in his career. So he looks to add to it this year. And he didn't look like he was slowing down either.
No,
He's
he
got a
looks pretty
skill
good.
set.
And Bryce has definitely credited him several times in the media now and in interviews with how helpful Thielen has been and how he's someone he can talk things through and coverages and all that kind of stuff. So
I'm wondering
it's a
if
good resign.
what if Cooper Cup went to the Commanders and was that for Jaden Daniels? Because they don't really have that type of receiver with Debo and with Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, I just don't see that as an option.
I don't either, but when you said like the mentorship and stuff, like that could really help for a young quarterback.
He could go to Chicago.
That would be great. That would be better than Keenan Allen, I believe. Better fit.
Well, that's a shame because I liked Keenan Allen. It just, but then again, that was the previous regime. So maybe
I
with the new regime.
Eberflus left a sour taste.
Why did we not talk about that? He could be reunited with. Well, no, he never played with Ben Johnson. Never mind. He could be
The
reunited
Jared
with
Goff
Jonah
connection to Ben
Jackson.
Johnson.
He could
What's
be
that?
reunited with He could be reunited with Jonah Jackson, who
There
the
you go.
Rams just traded over there.
There you go. We'll see. I mean, there's going to be endless people looking at a Cooper Cup because I believe that him and Diggs and a few others are the best left on the market, and some veteran wide receiver presence is good, especially if you have a team that's trying to build on something.
Cooper Cup was like the only good pick from the Jeff Fisher regime before Sean McVay got there.
Hey, on July 9th every year, I still celebrate Jeff Fisher Day. So from all the years he went 7-9, get
He
it?
has,
July
I
9th.
think, it's as many 8-8 seasons as he has 7-9.
Yeah, but August
It's
8th isn't as fun as July 9th.
I guess, but he's very mediocre either way you look at it.
Exactly. He's the anti-Tomlin.
He was the Tomlin before Tomlin.
Exactly. But we're going to hop into more Panthers news here. The Panthers re-signed tight end Tommy Tremble to a 2-year deal. Good signing, great blocker for the Panthers. I think he's actually a better pass catcher. He was supposed to be the Greg Olsen replacement, but he never panned out to be that. But I think Jatavian Sanders might be now. So they have some good depth in Carolina at the pass catcher position and at running back and at tight end now. But the Commanders that we just talked about re-signed tight end Zach Ertz to a 1-year deal, which I know you're a big fan of. You felt like he was the best for that role for Jaden Daniels and his development.
Yeah, I still do. I still think that's a good move on their part.
Absolutely. This one you're going to think is a good move as well. The Bengals re-signed tight end Mike Gesicki to a 3-year deal. And that's a big deal for a tight end. I think only one other tight end got a 3-year deal. But I expect him to be a big part of the passing game. They're going to struggle with targets this year, especially if T. Higgins is available for more of the year this year and is around and isn't traded. But they might be able to get a boatload for T. Higgins considering the wide receiver market right now.
The fact that Gesicki got a 3-year deal means Joe Burrow wants him there. And Gesicki finally had his breakout year that everyone knew he was capable of doing with Joe Burrow. He looked great. He is clearly the third option there behind Chase and Higgins, in my opinion at least. I thought he was very good. And without Higgins there, I could see his role skyrocket depending on what they do. So I really like the Gesicki deal.
Me too. I think the only thing that throws a little bit of a wrench into the Higgins exiting is the Jermaine Burton of it all and just trying to figure out that bonehead that they spent a pick on and doesn't seem to have his head on correctly for the NFL.
Did you see, what was it, like a couple weeks ago, he got another eviction notice?
No.
Yeah. A new place, new eviction notice. So I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know what's going on with that guy. Yoshiva is probably the next guy up over Burton. Burton has all the talent in the world, but he's a knucklehead.
If they're going to get rid of Higgins, I would bring back Tyler Boyd, though, and have him be the 3 behind Yoshiva and Chase. So that's what I would do if they were going to get rid of Higgins, because that allows for some continuity with Joe Burrow. Also allows to sprinkle in the Mike Gesicki of it all. Man, so they got a lot of work to do with signing, though. So it's not getting any easier by the day.
Hey, maybe they could sign Cooper Kupp and trade T. Higgins.
I was going to say they can't trade Jamar Chase, so that would be, they'd burn down that town.
Yeah.
All right. Patriots re-signed tight end Austin Hooper to a 1-year deal. He'll be behind Hunter Henry. They're both getting up there in age, though, so I could see them definitely go the rookie route very shortly. Can you see the Patriots grabbing a tight end maybe for Drake May for the long haul?
Don't they have Hunter Henry still?
Yeah, they'll both be 31 this year, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper.
I like Hunter Henry. Austin Hooper isn't it for me. If the Raiders were serious about trading Meyer, then maybe Meyer would be a good fit with New England since he can block, but I don't think the Raiders actually want to move on from him. I think they like having the 2 tight ends. So
why did that even come up?
I think they were listening. I think somebody asked them and that got reported.
It just feels like weird to trade a tight end on a rookie deal after year 2.
Yeah.
And they even gave him time off last year to deal with something personal, which it's never leaked out to the media what it is. So the team has a lot of respect for him too for not even leaking it. So I'm just not understanding where the questioning is coming from here, but okay. Just because you have Brock Bowers doesn't mean you don't need a good second tight end. Seems crazy to me. Saints re-signed tight end Juwan Johnson to a 3-year deal. That's a pretty big deal. I think he'll be their tight end 1, especially as Taysom Hill recovers from an ACL tear last year. And Taysom Hill may not even be on the roster this year. So I don't know if they can cut him before he gets cleared or they have to wait, but that's one to watch out for. We have Chiefs re-signing tight end Robert Tonyan, who had a great year with Green Bay 1 year, but hasn't really done much since. And that's to a 1-year deal. So their tight end room is pretty stacked right now. I think they have Wiley, Gray, and Kelsey, and Tonyan on top of that. And I think Tanyan's probably a roster bubble casualty as long as there's not a injury. So something to look out for. But that is all of the re-signing. So this was all done before the free agency period started for the most part. And we can hop over to the brand new teams that people will end up on. And the first one's a major one, Alex. We talked about Geno Smith being traded earlier. And quarterback Sam Darnold signs a 3-year deal with the Seahawks to replace Geno Smith. Do you think he will do better, worse, or as good as Geno did last year?
That's kind of a loaded question. I think he has more long-term potential than Geno. I think that the talent situation is a step down from what he just had in Minnesota. So I know that stats-wise, he was the 3rd slowest release, and Geno was like the 14th fastest release. The Seahawks have changed their offensive coordinator to Clint Kubiak, who I think is better than Grubb, who they had the year before. So kind of in the similar tree as Kevin O'Connell. So might be able to utilize him more. However, the interior offensive line is not good as we speak. Maybe they improve that in the draft. They didn't make any moves yet. Free agency along the offensive line, as far as I can tell. So I expect some regression. We'll see how Darnold can do starting in a system that's not Kevin O'Connell's and isn't as loaded and doesn't have Justin Jefferson. So we'll see what he's made of. We'll see if Clint Kubiak is a good offensive coordinator. It's something to watch, but I expect a step back for both Seattle and for Sam Darnold at this moment. We'll see as the offseason continues if I revise that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it for them for the reason that he's a much younger quarterback. He's coming off of one of the best years that a quarterback's had in recent memory. But you did mention the weapons. I do think JSN is a brilliant weapon to have and very young as well. So there's a chance if Darnold has another 8 years in him, he has 8 years of JSN with him as well. So that's a pretty cool little nugget right there. Anything else on Sam Darnold before we hop over to one of your favorites?
It's curious that he only got like $30 million per year, maybe a little bit more than that.
At the Baker deal.
Well, considering the franchise tag was like 40 million and Vikings didn't even want to risk doing that because they didn't want to start the negotiations off at 40 million. It shows you that the league didn't really value him at that highly.
That's probably true. I think you wanted to go to a good offensive spot with a decent offensive coach because I believe this is the offensive coach that you said could get 6,000 yards of offense out of a team. Was this the team last year that you were referring to?
You mean Seattle?
6,000 passing yards. Yeah, wasn't their head coach the guy that you thought could?
No, it was it was because of Washington College, Washington University, whatever. And you project out that to a full NFL season of games, it could be 6,000. Didn't work out that way. They didn't
like
have the
Darnold's
same.
in
Well,
good hands.
their offensive line couldn't block that. Then they used Charbonnet and Walker in opposite roles. It felt like Walker should be the goal line guy. They used Charbonnet as a goal line. It made no sense.
Well, I hope their line gets better coaching, and I hope they deploy their running backs a little bit better this year. But Sam Darnold was a former Jet drafted by the Jets, and now the Jets have a new starting quarterback, and that is one of your favorites. Justin Fields signs a 2-year deal with the Jets and should start this year. What are your thoughts here, and how do you think he'll do in New York?
A quarterback that plays for the Jets, it's just seems like they're always better after they leave. But for fantasy purposes, he can still run. So he's worth taking a stab at, especially in a dynasty right now where you could probably get him dirt cheap because someone hasn't been able to get rid of him. I'm still interested to see if they draft someone. I still think that they're a team that could draft someone like Jackson Dart and develop him behind Justin Fields because they didn't give him that much of a commitment. They gave him $20 million per year and they can cut bait pretty easily. It's not that big of a cap hit for him. So it's a tentative, short stopgap measure, and if he does well, they'll extend him.
Absolutely. He's only 26, but he's only played for defensive coaches so far, and you know how I feel about that. So I'm a little worried at this spot, but I do believe in redraft leagues, if you're going to wait on quarterback, grab Justin Fields. Just do it. Because I feel like they should just unleash him, because what do they have to lose?
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I don't know if you saw the news lately, but someone from Fields, I think it's Justin Fields' same quarterback class, Mac Jones, just signed a 2-year deal with San Francisco. So,
Absolutely. He's going to be the starter, right?
But no need to pay Brock Purdy now because you got Mac Jones, the guy who they were rumored to, at some point, they were going to draft at 3 over Lance.
Yep, they overthought it.
Yep. Well, probably would have been significantly better than Lance. And who knows what his career would have been like if he went to the 49ers instead of the Patriots.
So if they did that, I don't think there's a Brock Purdy.
No, they might still have taken Brock Purdy, but we'd never know that he was good. So this feels kind of like a Sam Darnold situation for them where they get a high upside young backup as a hedge in case they can't get a deal worked out with their actual starter. So he could be a sneaky switch up because they may postpone the Brock Purdy deal until into the season or next offseason.
This is a bit of a wrench, right?
They could get a situation where they start a Mac Jones.
Am I crazy that this is a bit of a wrench, though?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same
2-year
situation
deal.
as it's a similar situation as Darnold being there last year. Like a former early first round pick quarterback that has still has talent.
But they did a 1 year with Darnold. They did a 1 year with Josh Jobs, who just signed a 2 year with the Patriots. But back to Mac Jones for one more second here. Yeah, that's crazy because that's 2 years now that he has a chance now in this offense. I think they're hedging their bets a little bit, but we'll see. But that's cheap, but not too cheap. He's making like what, 4 times as much as Purdy is making this year? They
Well, I
must
think
like him
what
more.
was it? I can't remember how much Purdy is making at this point.
Doubled it in incentives with his $985,000 salary. So, and he's making at least 4 a year. So they must like him 4 times as much as Purdy if they're going to pay him 4 times as much. I'm sticking to that. But as I mentioned, Josh Jobs signed a 2 year deal with the Patriots. Probably he'll definitely be the backup to he'll be the new Jacoby Brissett for Drake May. Looks like they're trying to get rid of their backup quarterback, their third string quarterback as well. Think like Bo Milton or something like that.
Oh, it's Joe Milton.
Joe Milton. Bo Nix is the other Bo of the area, but watch out for him in the
Yeah.
Steelers, people are saying.
If they can get something of value for Milton, that would be incredible because right now people have only seen Milton light up third stringers and has a lot of hype and he looks the part. He's got a strong arm. So it's got to interest someone, especially if everyone's down on this QB class. So go for it. Go ahead and see if you can get something for him. Because I don't really think he can be a starter in the NFL. So let someone else make that mistake.
And I really see the media hyping up this Mac Jones deal with the 49ers. Man, do they know something that we don't know yet?
Well, I still
Brock
like
Purdy to the
Mac
Pittsburgh
Jones.
Steelers.
I still like Mac Jones a little bit.
Yeah, Brock Purdy to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, if you're the Titans, if you're the Giants or the Steelers, and you're a quarterback away from being competitive, I would consider Brock Purdy.
It's possible.
I think Brock Purdy is a better candidate than a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. So I would go for Brock Purdy then.
I don't think there's a chance that they trade him in the NFC, though, just off the off chance that he would compete with them for 10 years for a playoff spot. I think that's an AFC push, so I think that leaves the Steelers and the Titans as a possibility if that does happen, which we're far, far away from that happening. Fully cop to that. But if they could get a first-round pick or multiple first-round picks for Brock Purdy, for a guy that they spent a seventh-round pick on, man, talk about return on investment. And you paid him peanuts for the first 3 years?
I would think the Steelers would be the more likely team. But hey, you can rebuild your offensive line, your defense. So that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And you could, if you could bring Aaron Rodgers in. No one is on the 49ers that shafted Aaron Rodgers, his draft class, and they're his childhood team.
The owner's still there. Anyways, we can move on to the last few signings. The next two aren't that big, but notable. Zach Wilson, former first-round pick, signs a 1-year deal with the Dolphins to back up Tua. Jacoby Brissett. What's that?
He's going to start.
He could.
Tua's going to get hurt. He always gets hurt. So
you know, when you said that 2 years ago, he played all 17 games. So now I'm banking on him playing 17 games. He does the opposite of what you say. He's not a good listener for you, as we would tell our now 5-year-old around the house. Not a good listener. Anyways, Jacoby Brissett signs a 1-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals to back up Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray's job is completely safe for the foreseeable future. Is this what this is telling me? And I know you love Kyler Murray. But this is the interesting one. Not Mac Jones, but Daniel Jones. So his brother signs a 1-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts. And he should compete with Anthony Richardson for the starting quarterback position. Currently in my projections, I have Anthony Richardson starting 9 games and Daniel Jones starting 8 games. This is my coin flip position as of right now. Alex, do you read it differently, or do you have a hot take here?
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't think either one of them gets them to the playoffs. This is a very uninspiring signing. This may shock you, but I'd rather have Minshew than Daniel Jones.
I mean,
You know,
for
you know
this,
Minshew can work in this offense. He's already worked in this offense.
for this spot, I would have really liked to see like a Russell Wilson, like a grown up in the room that might have been able to mentor and show Anthony Richardson the way, tighten up, or what a Colt down, or whatever the Colts saying is. Russell Wilson would say be the team mascot, basically. So I think Anthony
There was
Richardson needs
never
that.
a link.
Yeah,
So
I
there
know,
was
but I think he needs it.
never.
He needs that mentorship that I don't know if Daniel Jones can give it to him, because he's going to be competing for the job. And if you gave Russell Wilson the job and made Anthony Richardson redshirt one year behind Russell Wilson, like that's a whole other different thing. Now there's a competition. Sometimes that works, but we're not really sure that Anthony Richardson has that competitive drive. I mean, he's taken himself out of games before, so like I think the mentorship route would have been a little bit better, but we'll see.
I think Richardson needs to go to a team that will basically whip him in the shape, kick him in the butt, like challenge him to actually do something and improve. I feel like the Colts are just being passive aggressive about it. Like they're obviously frustrated, but they're still being gentle. It's what it seems like. He needs to get shocked into performing. He has all the talent in the world, but he has no drive to improve himself, no drive to win seemingly. As far as Russell, I know you really like that spot for him, but there's never any links, nothing ever lined up. So I don't think very many teams like Russell Wilson, and it's very strange to me that he's visiting the Browns, because I feel like Steelers, after losing out on Fields, I feel like they should go back to Russell Wilson over signing Aaron Rodgers, especially the way the team's constructed. I think they should reconsider that.
I do too, but it doesn't sound like Russ wants to go there now. It sounds like he's set on leaving.
I don't even know if they've offered him a contract. Like they were in talks with him and Fields, but well, we don't know anything about the numbers. The only thing we know for the Fields talks is they would only guarantee year one, whereas the Jets guaranteed half of year two. So,
And I think the Jets guaranteed him a starting role, which does make a little bit of difference, because that's the only way that he's going to resurrect his career is if he's starting.
and
But it's very possible that it's a very classic movie plot. A guy likes two girls, so Pittsburgh Steeler likes two girls, Wilson and Fields, and can't pick between them. And they both look at the guy and they're like, "No, we don't want you." And they both just bounced on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
yeah, I just
If you can't commit
I
to
think
us,
every year I think Tomlin's time is coming to an end with the Steelers because their offense just isn't improving. And I really don't like Arthur Smith as a offensive coordinator, and yet he's there. But I think he's making it hard to bring in a quarterback because quarterbacks don't like to run a system.
the good news is eventually he'll be right. But so we were just talking Daniel Jones. Let's keep with the Colts here. Colts signed Khalil Herbert to a 1 year deal to be their backup running back for Jonathan Taylor, and I think he's a great backup running back for Jonathan Taylor. So, what are your thoughts on that one? Some interesting running back.
I think that's a good spot for him. I don't really think they have anything set in stone as a backup running back, so I like it.
Absolutely. And then Elijah Mitchell leaves the San Francisco 49ers and signs a 1 year deal with the Chiefs. He could really push Pacheco, in my opinion. So, what are your thoughts there? Do you think this is 1A, 1B, or do you think he'll definitely be the backup going into the year, considering how Pacheco was last year?
I think he'll definitely start off the backup. If Pacheco doesn't look right, then he could step in and be a valuable contributor for them. But if Pacheco's playing hard, I think he's not the same type of back. Pacheco's a north and south runner, and I think I think Mitchell is more of a speedy back, in my opinion. So I think they're complementary.
That will be an interesting backfield to watch in the preseason. That'll be one of the ones that I watch. So the only running back to get a 2-year deal in free agency was Samaje Perine, and he gets reunited with the Cincinnati Bengals. It's kind of weird with Moss and Brown and Perine there. I expect him to get some rare third down opportunities, and that's about it.
Is it Moss a free agent?
Not that I know of. If only there was a handy little Google machine that we could use really quickly to figure that out. But Zach Moss is signed with the Bengals for $3 million this year.
So they still have Zach Moss and they have Chase Brown, and now that P. Ryan, and they still want another bruising back. Wasn't Moss supposed to be the bruising back?
I guess so. I really don't know what role that these backs have, to be honest, because the roles that they have assigned them doesn't feel like they fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have next up, Vontae Williams signs a 1-year deal with the Cowboys. That seems like a pretty good deal for Javonte Williams. He probably will be the guy in Dallas this year. So that's a pretty big deal. What are your thoughts there? Because I know you're side-eyeing me, so maybe thinking rookie running back or something.
I'd like to think that they would also bring in a rookie running back, but it's a very nice flyer. I think he's still got talent. So it's a very nice low key deal. I would like to see him come back. I would like to see him revive his career and get a payday. Not sure that he will, but I do know that Zeke is gone, and now Rico Dowdle is gone. Rico Dowdle has joined your team, the Panthers, on a 1-year deal.
That is correct. So now we have another running back that got over 1,000 rushing yards last year. That's two. I think Hubbard and Rico got it. So that's pretty cool because there's not very many running backs every year that get 1,000 rushing yards. And Jonathan Brooks projects to be out most of, if not all of the season this upcoming year because he re-tore his ACL week 14 last year, probably out half, if not more, of the season this year. So Rico will play a pretty sizable role, especially after Miles Sanders has been cut. But I don't expect him to overtake Hubbard.
Did you see the contract update for Javonte?
What is it?
Is only 1 million guaranteed.
Wow. The running back market wasn't as robust this year, but I also don't think the quality of talent was as robust this year as it was last year. Last year was an anomaly because you had Barkley a free agent, you had Jacobs a free agent, you had Aaron Jones a free. Like it was an anomaly last year.
And even the best running back this year, probably Najee, only got a 1-year deal. So
yeah, we'll get to his deal in a couple of minutes here. But AJ Dillon signs a 1-year deal with the Eagles to back up Saquon Barkley and probably Will Shipley. He'll probably be the third string running back there. And his old third stringer backup running back to Barkley, Kenneth Gainwell, signs a 1-year deal with the Steelers. That's a little bit of interesting because he kind of pairs up with Jalen Warren right now. I do expect them to look at a rookie running back, but we'll see which one they get and where. But Kenneth Gainwell's one that you want to put a little stamp on if they don't draft a rookie. He might be a sneaky late round flyer to grab.
You've been a fan of his for a while.
I like him, but that role that he'd be filling in the Najee Harris role was actually was valuable, and I think it'll be undervalued with Gainwell going into this year. So you might be able to get a dip in the market there, and I like those dips. But one player you won't be able to get a dip in the market, and he actually might skyrocket this year, is Najee Harris, who signs a 1-year deal with the Chargers. We know they love to run the ball. We know they love his style of running also. So it will be interesting to see how the Chargers deploy him this year. And I do expect good things. Probably a top 20 back season for me for Harris. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think he's missed a game in his career as far as I know.
Nope.
He is exactly the back that they're looking for. That doesn't mean
He's old though.
wouldn't that they wouldn't resign Dobbins. I think they could and pair those two together, but it made sense even before Najee became a free agent. This seemed like it would happen. So the fact that it did, I'm not surprised at all. I think it's a good
Me
move.
either. Me either. But that wasn't the only signing the Chargers made. They reunited with wide receiver Mike Williams. Kind of a big deal because he could replace some snaps by Quentin Johnston. They're definitely both playing in 3 receiver sets as of right now with Lad McConkey, but gives them another weapon, gives them a weapon that is a veteran that Justin Herbert is familiar with. So that's a pretty big deal. And after touring the Jets in Pittsburgh, he returns home to Los Angeles to be a Charger again. I don't know if he's fantasy relevant, at least not off the bat, but he's probably worth a late lottery ticket. I would say a
Well,
bench spot.
to me, I'm just realizing this. I think he's actually replacing the snaps from Josh Palmer, who left to sign a 3-year deal with the Bills. So I think he'd slide in there. So maybe he doesn't threaten Quentin Johnston right now.
As much.
Yeah. And that doesn't preclude them from going after another wide receiver. So we'll see if they do that. But what do you think
Not
about
at all.
Josh Palmer filling in for probably Amari Cooper's spot with the Bills?
That wasn't that much of a big spot, except for they have to figure out how to teach him how to lateral back to Josh Allen for a touchdown. I mean, that was Amari Cooper's one and only big play last year, but I do have higher expectations for Joshua Palmer with Josh Allen. So the Joshes are going to have a little bit of a connection here, at least for the next 3 years. We'll see how great of a connection that is. But we just talked about Mike Williams, who played for the Jets last year. Also playing for the Jets last year was Devontae Adams. They cut him, and he signed a 2-year deal with the Rams. So he's replacing Cooper Kupp. But in a weird way, this is an excellent fit for Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. Like there's almost no overlap of skill sets here, and it's almost a really good fit to end a career for Devontae Adams. Plus, he's playing with what I consider to be a Hall of Fame quarterback in Matthew Stafford. So, thoughts with Adams? You taking him this year?
No, I probably won't. No, I don't like him.
He's currently my wide receiver 11.
That's probably why I wouldn't take him, because I would think of him as a high-end wide receiver 2 or middle-end wide receiver 2, and he's going to get taken as a wide receiver 1. I can't do that. I just can't.
It's
I think
funny
he's a
because
good-
I think him and Nakua are both wide receiver 1s or borderline wide receiver 1s.
Yeah, we thought that about Cooper Kupp last year, too.
They stopped using him. That's not his fault.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am hesitant to do the same thing. I think he's a good real NFL addition. It's hard for me to place him fantasy-wise right now.
The team's going to be good.
They should be.
They brought back a lot of pieces, and I don't know how they're not good this upcoming year. So I think they'll be better than the 49ers, because I think the 49ers had a lot of turnover this year. So they're going to be a lot younger this upcoming year. The Seahawks are a big unknown. They might win their division just based on the unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns except for that team. All right. So that's the big signing. But also, Demarcus Robinson moves off of the Rams and signs a 2-year deal with the 49ers. So that's something to look at. But their wide receiver room's starting to get really jammed packed right now. So I expect either some cuts or some trades from their wide receiver room. Right now, they got Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings, Robinson. So that's their top 4 receivers. But after that, they got Cowing, Russell Gage, and Isaiah Hodgins as well. So they have 7 wide receivers that they currently roster before the NFL draft and before the undrafted free agents sign. So interesting. Also, with him, you have to be on the lookout for a looming suspension from his DUI arrest a few months ago. Just be on the lookout. Maybe a 2-game suspension I would expect for him. Maybe sometime this summer that will be levied. But Alex, I need to get to my favorite signing, And your favorite signing, because it impacts your team, the Texans here signed wide receiver Braxton Berrios to a 1-year deal. How pumped are you for him to be your wide receiver 2 going into 2025?
He's a depth piece and he's a special teams signing only. He
He
got
is a special signing. You're right. Very
he got a
special.
maximum deal of $2 million. Is going to be a returner, and that's pretty much it. So I don't expect him to contribute on offense at all. I'm not even sure if he'll make the team.
Well, he would be your third receiver, I guess, behind Kirk. I forgot about the Kirk trade already, although that became official today.
Yeah,
I
I
think he'll
mean
be the third receiver instead of
they
Mechie.
also signed Justin Watson, which was even more of a head scratcher because I don't even think Watson does special teams. So right now, I think they have, well, I think it was like 12 wide receivers on the roster right now, something ridiculous. Oh,
Yeah, they're
I
just
think it's
trying to
just
bring
camp
in bodies.
bodies.
Yep.
They've brought in like 7 special teamers. I feel like it's all wide receivers and defensive ends. They're signing 100 million defensive ends as well. So it's been an interesting offseason.
I still don't see a Tank Dell replacement just yet, which is interesting because that skill set is lost without him on the team.
I think Christian Kirk is the Tank Dell replacement. I don't think that they've replaced a Stephon Diggs type thing yet.
Yeah. I just don't know if he has the speed that Dell does, especially at his age and coming off the injury and everything like that.
I don't think Dell has the speed anymore either.
Why you say that? Because he just got his ACL reconstructed last week, and maybe he could get beat in a race right now by Kirk. Maybe.
Yes.
But we go from your favorite signing, one of my favorite players, to the Buffalo Bills losing one of my favorite players on the team, and Mac Hollins signs a 2-year deal with the Patriots. So I don't really know what the Patriots are doing because they have a whole bunch of number 2 and number 3 wide receivers, and I don't really know who makes the roster because they had 2 rookies last year, and I expect at least one of them to be off the roster going into this upcoming year. But they also have Butte and Bourne and Douglas, and they just have a whole hodgepodge of I don't know how that wide receiver room's going to shake out basically right now.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make any sense to me because in my mind, Mac Hollins is worse than all the guys that are currently on the roster anyway. So I don't get it. The type of roster move you make is someone better than that group, like an
It might have
actual
been the best they
alpha.
could get.
It makes zero sense to me because he's like a wide receiver 4 or wide receiver 5, and they already are full of threes, so it makes zero sense. I
Yeah, I
thought,
mean, and they have Baker and Polk from last year, and that's what the rookies that I was referring to. That I expect one of those to probably be off.
I saw a lot of clips of Polk getting open and Drake
Dropping.
May never looking his way because either he was running for his life or was actually running with the ball.
Yeah. But Polk had a lot of drop. Polk had no problem getting open last year. He had a bunch of drops, so
Yeah.
that might be why he didn't look his way too. He
And,
lost confidence in him. So
I think Baker could be someone that improves as well.
yeah,
I know a lot of people like Douglas. I like Boutique.
he liked Butte, yeah, but didn't Butte have legal troubles a few years ago too? So I'm a little
Oh, yes, for
worried
sure.
about him as well for obvious reasons. But I think we spent a lot of time on the shirtless, shoeless wonder, Mac Hollins,
I don't even
and
think we spent any time on him. I think we talked about everyone else on that team.
because I'm sad because he has immense value with Josh Allen, immense value with Josh
Oh,
Allen. He's that guy that got open down the field, and
why didn't the Bills resign him?
I don't know. Maybe they weren't offering him as much.
You don't think they could have offered more than 2 years, $8 million?
Possibly. But they were too busy signing Joshua Palm. They were looking at a different person, and this person ran away. You're not going to
If they
concentrate on
actually
me?
valued him as much as you and some of your Bills fans think they did, that they would have paid him.
I
And they
think they
didn't.
should have re-signed him before the legal tampering period where they could re-sign their own guys. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But One of your guys here, Nick Westbrook-Akine, signs a 2-year deal with the Miami Dolphins to be their number 3 receiver, which probably doesn't make you feel great because you extended him in Dynasty. Hopefully they start to use the number 3 receiver here. He's a touchdown machine if used correctly. If Levis could get him the ball for touchdowns and Mason Rudolph could as well, there's no reason why Tua can't do the same. So there is hope there. He might score more touchdowns than Waddle this year.
I was
So
gonna say, I think actually going to Miami helps him.
yeah, at
So
least some stability, right?
yeah,
But this is a very non-Miami type player that they signed, which is nice because it sounds like they're evolving their offense a little bit. So interesting little piece there. Not so interesting. Van Jefferson signs a 1-year deal with the Titans, so that was the Titans' one and only signing. So I felt like I had to announce it. But here's your boy, D-Hop. DeAndre Hopkins signs a 1-year deal with the Ravens. You thought he would go back to the Chiefs, but he ended up with Derrick Henry to close out his career with the Baltimore Ravens, which I expect this to be Hopkins' last year in the NFL-ish.
I don't know if it's his last year, but he's ring chasing on another team, and I don't hate it for him. I'd much rather the Ravens win than the Chiefs win. So
Well, and if you think about it, no one on that team has a skill set that Hopkins does. And I think
sure,
Flowers and I think Bateman and I think Walker could really learn from a veteran wide receiver in the room, a grown up in the room. So I think this is a great move for
yeah,
the Ravens. So this kind of gets them pretty close to the top of the AFC for me. It's always going to be the Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills for me. I know sometimes you want to put the Bengals in there, but the fact that they're terribly run
yeah.
kind of eliminates them.
They're about to lose the best part of what makes them run. They can't keep all these guys the way that they've been botching these contract negotiations.
And their defense is about to get worse. So Joe Burrow, draft him first overall in fantasy next year. You heard it here first. He's going to be having to put up 60 points a game to win.
He might have to throw 6,000 yards.
Yep. So he might have a record-setting year. He might win MVP this upcoming year. I mean, it depends on how their team performs, I guess.
And
But Alex, I think Hopkins is on his downfall, his descent right now, especially at his age. I have him, so he's 32 right now. He'll be 33 before the season starts. I have him going 43 grabs, 670 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Does that sound outrageous or realistic or way too much?
what, you don't want to give him 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns?
No, I don't think he'll be used like that at this point.
I have a hard time figuring out where to put him because it's not like that offense typically uses multiple receivers that get a bunch of yards. So we'll see. They may or may not move on from Mark Andrews. I don't know. If that happens, I could see Hopkins being the big time red zone target and getting a bunch of touchdowns.
For sure, but they have your buddy Likely right behind him. The likely target.
I like
But yeah,
likely, but
it's possible. I'm going to see a lot of people drafting Hopkins this upcoming year way before he should be drafted because he's on a good team. But they've committed a lot to Flowers. They've committed a lot to Bateman. And I don't expect them to fully disappear. And as you said, I don't know how great Lamar Jackson is at spreading the ball around like this. So we're going to have to see that skill set.
to me, it's going to be kind of hard that if they don't do well next year, you can't blame the weapons because they have weapons to throw to. In fact, Ravens' weapons might be better than anything the Bills have.
Yeah. And I think as long as Henry's healthy, I think the team is going to do just fine. I don't know how you stop that team.
Yeah.
So they might be a Super Bowl contender as well. I mean, I think I've already said the Buccaneers could be for the NFC. I think the Rams could win their division pretty easily next year as well. So keep a look out for that. But yeah, your buddy here, MVS, did not re-sign with the Saints. He signed a 1-year deal with the Seahawks to replace DK Metcalf. What is your thoughts on Marquez Valdez-Scantling going to play with Sam Darnold? Doesn't seem like their skill sets overlap too well.
Darnold did okay on some deep balls. Primarily, this is more about Clint Kubiak. And MVS had some great success with the Saints under Kubiak. He was primarily their deep threat, and he got a lot of touchdowns, almost like Westbrook Ikine did. So I think he's a good fill-in, good veteran fill-in until they fill out the rest of their wide receiver core. But I fully expect them to draft another wide receiver either day one or day two. So I like it. I think he'll fill in some production, and I think JSN will shift to wide receiver one. So it'll be good.
So I have high hopes for JSN this year. He's currently projected at my wide receiver 12 for the year. 16, I have him ranked because I'm hedging my bets a little bit there, but he finished 10 last year. So
Yeah, high hopes, high apple pie in the sky hopes.
all right, Alex, let's put a bow on the last few transactions here. The next two are Jaguars. So the last wide receiver one is Dwami Brown. Signs a 1-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I expect him to be the wide receiver 3 entering the year. And the Jaguars also stole Hunter Long away from the Rams on a 2-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Signings, I expect the Dwami Brown to move the needle a little bit more than the Hunter Long one because I expect Brendan Strange to be the tight end 1 for the Jaguars going into this year. But what do you think about Brown, Davis, and Thomas, the new law firm?
I think out of those, the only one I want anything to do with is Brian Thomas Jr.
He's
And
elite.
I fully expect them to take a wide receiver at 5, whether that be Ted McMillan or whether that be Travis Hunter. I think it's going to be one of those two.
Yeah. I wonder if it's Hunter and they bring him along slowly at wide receiver because they have those other 3 to start off the year.
They absolutely could. I think it makes the most sense there. So
Yeah.
I think that the Giants and the Patriots already added big ticket free agent defensive backs as well as first round corners. So I think that Hunter would fit with the Jaguars the best.
Okay. And Alex, this brings us to our last transaction of this episode. And it's former Jaguar Evan Ingram. He signs a 2-year deal with the Denver Broncos, which feels like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, the Broncos free agency, they have hit pretty much all of their major needs already. So they've got a top end safety, they got a top end linebacker, they got a pretty good tight end now.
Yep.
So I
Seems
fully
like
expect them to go Amari Hampton in the first round now, which is
I don't think he's a
crazy.
first round back.
I don't either, but I don't know what else they're gonna do at this point.
Maybe
They might
another
go
receiver.
second tight end. I don't know.
Yeah. They got Troutman still on their roster. There's a rumor that they might reunite with Taysom Hill and Sean Payton. There's a lot of rumors out there, but obviously those are just rumors until we discover.
But their biggest need left appears to be running back, and they might very well ensure that they get a bruiser that they didn't really have last year in Amari Hampton.
Is it
So I
possible
can
they trade down into the early second round and grab him?
Sure they could if there's someone that teams wanted to trade up for.
Well, you have to remember they traded a lot of draft capital away for Russell Wilson, so they could recoup some of that draft capital.
So
Here, and Sean Payton costs the draft capital too.
Steelers are right after them. So if somebody wanted to trade up for a D tackle right in front of the Steelers, I could see that. Or
Yeah,
maybe
I see
a
the
quarterback.
Steelers going defense 100% in the first round. 100%.
Yeah, so I could see someone try to trade up in front of the Steelers for a defensive player. Or as Shador Sanders slid in the draft, I could see someone wanting to trade up for him too.
Man. But I think you and I both agreed that we were going to split the difference on Genty. And if he's 16 or greater in the draft, you win. And if he's 17 or later in the draft, I win.
I am locked into the Bears at number 10 for him, but I think the Cowboys are a good spot for him at 12 as well.
I think you're repeating history too much. So you're looking at what Ben Johnson's done in the past, and you think that he's going to predict what's going to happen in the future.
Well, it's also what they've done with the roster this time. Like, they've shored up everything. Like, there's nothing else to take.
There's a whole bunch of 1-year deals on that team, though, that are going to expire next year that you backfill now versus thrust a guy into it right now in the first round, especially year one.
It'll be Genty.
As I said, just because you want to believe it doesn't mean you should believe.
I mean, Genty could go as high as 6. I mean, that's entirely possible.
And he could go
I
as low
don't
as the late first round.
like. I don't. It would be weird for him to go to the Jets at 7 with Brees, but I've heard rumblings that they might move on from Brees at some point. It would be weird for him to go to the Panthers at 8.
I couldn't see the Panthers
Maybe the Saints at 9, but that would also be pretty weird.
because they just re-signed Kamara. Yeah,
It'd be weird to go 11 unless, the
Saints have
49ers
a
want to
ton of
get
needs,
rid
too.
of. Yeah. So Dallas, I see Dallas as a really good option because all they've done is Javante.
Dallas has like 95, so and a running back's like icing on the cake, not the cake. We
Yeah,
need to build
but
the cake first.
Genty would sell jerseys to the fan base, and that's all Jerry Jones cares about.
He doesn't run it anymore. He would have had Johnny Manziel.
I don't. Yeah, I think Johnny Manziel would have led to jersey burnings as much as jersey sales.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, just because it's flashy doesn't mean. And they usually go weird in the first round, if I remember correctly.
I don't know why you think Genty is not a good running back, but
I don't think he's not a good running back. I think part of me thinks that you're overhyping him because you have a 101 in a dynasty and you're hoping that he's this otherworldly player that will be on your roster for 9 years.
I have more 102s than I have 101s, and I would love to get 101 in those other leagues too.
See?
And in fact, the league that I have the 101, I'm actually closer to talks to acquire the 102 without moving the 101. So I'll have both
I would rather
potentially
have
in that
102 than
scenario.
101. I would rather have whatever back that the 101 doesn't want because usually that's the better option, especially if it goes to a later team because that's a better team.
Yeah, we'll see.
We will see, but I could see the Bears go offensive line. I could see the Bears going linebacker, defensive back. See a lot of things.
I could see the Bears go more offensive line in the second and third rounds because they still have all their second. They have their second and they have both thirds.
Yep. And they have 2 seconds, don't they? Because of Bryce Young?
No, I think they only have 1.
And they
No,
must
maybe
have
they do
traded
have
theirs
2
away.
because the Panthers don't have their second.
We have the Giants second for Brian Burns.
So
yeah, it'll be interesting.
I think they have 2 seconds and maybe 2 thirds, but
They could go running back in the high second.
they could.
So we'll see. We'll see, though. I know there's a few good running back prospects here, so the odds that Genty is the best running back to come out of this year isn't always the greatest, but
It's true. I mean, Bucky Irving was not the greatest on tape or on
I know,
measurements.
but he is in the NFL. I'm adding it right now, the bet to because this one's locked in. This is gonna happen. I for sure can see him going in the late first round, for sure. Maybe even to like the Chiefs, and then that screws you totally up because that'll give you some CEH night heartburn and indigestion.
I'll take Pepto.
I know, but he would also be in a timeshare for at least the first year with Pacheco Mitchell himself.
I think that's just a new reality because even like Gibbs and Robinson were in timeshares and they were high first round picks. So I just think that's a new reality in today's NFL.
Well, I think your best bet, though, is Dallas because Jerry Jones seems to be the most realistic to deploy a bell cow back.
Honestly, probably the best chance for him to be a bell cow is the Raiders because Dallas has Javante who could still be something and still eat in the snaps. Raiders really have nothing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Raiders do because they got McCormick coming back who actually showed some signs last year, but White's not good and Madison's not good, but also a free agent. But Alex, next week we will cover the second half of the first round of free agency. We expect more deals through Monday and Tuesday, so that'll be what our expectation is. So in the next week or so, there should probably be another handful of deals as well. And we'll go over the best of what's left.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading or listening to this episode. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And please leave us a comment. Share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Hi, everybody.